Are there lost civilizations beneath Antarctica? This is what Ancient Aliens reveals. Picture this. February 1947. The world has just emerged from the deadliest conflict in human history. Cities lie in ruins. Nations are rebuilding. Yet the United States government makes a peculiar decision. They're sending nearly 5,000 military personnel to the most desolate place on Earth, Antarctica. But this isn't a scientific mission. This is Operation Highjump, and leading it is one of America's most decorated explorers, Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd. Byrd isn't just any officer. At 41, he'd already become the youngest admiral in U.S. Navy history after his legendary solo flight over the South Pole. He'd conquered both polar regions, received the Medal of Honor, and earned the respect of presidents. And if anyone could handle whatever mysteries Antarctica held, it was him. The expedition launches with unprecedented scale. 13 naval vessels, 33 aircraft, and 4,700 men. The official story. They're establishing research stations and testing equipment in polar conditions. The mission timeline? 4 months, December through March. But something goes catastrophically wrong. By late February, Admiral Byrd orders an immediate evacuation. The massive fleet retreats months ahead of schedule. Personnel are sworn to secrecy, and Byrd himself is rushed to Washington, D.C., where he's sequestered in a secure facility for extensive debriefing. What happened in those frozen wastes that forced America's largest Antarctic expedition to flee? The answer, according to documents that surfaced decades later, and is beyond anything the public was told. Byrd's official reports mention nothing unusual, but his personal diary, discovered by his family after his death, tells a dramatically different story. In his private writings, Byrd describes flying his reconnaissance plane beyond the known territories of Antarctica. As his aircraft crosses the polar threshold, his instruments begin malfunctioning. The compass spins wildly. Temperature gauges register impossible readings. Through his cockpit window, the endless white landscape suddenly transforms. Where there should be only ice and snow, Byrd sees green valleys stretching toward the horizon. Rivers flowing with liquid water, vegetation that has no business existing in sub-zero temperatures. His altitude readings indicate he's flying into the Earth itself, descending through some massive opening in the polar ice. Then comes the encounter that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Disc-shaped craft, silent and impossibly fast, surround his plane. Before Byrd or his crew can react, their aircraft's controls stop responding. They're no longer flying the plane. Something else is guiding them downward, toward a city that shouldn't exist. The structures below gleam with crystalline brilliance, reflecting light in rainbow cascades. The architecture defies everything Byrd knows about engineering. His plane touches down on a landing platform, and figures approach, tall, radiating an otherworldly presence. Byrd is escorted into a vast chamber where he meets someone referred to in his diary only as the Master. This being speaks without moving his lips, the words forming directly in Byrd's mind. The message is urgent and terrifying. Humanity has crossed a threshold. The atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki have drawn attention, unwanted attention, from civilizations that have existed beneath the Earth's surface for millennia. These beings watched humanity grow, waited for us to mature, hoped we would choose wisdom over destruction. Instead, we've created weapons that could annihilate ourselves and damage the planet they also call home. The Master delivers a warning. If humanity continues down this path, intervention will become necessary. These subsurface civilizations have technology beyond our comprehension. They've monitored our nuclear facilities. They've disabled our weapon systems when necessary, and they're running out of patience. Byrd is told he must deliver this message to his superiors. Then, and as suddenly as it began, the encounter ends. His plane is released. He flies back through that impossible opening and returns to his fleet, shaken to his core. When Byrd reports his experience, the response is immediate and severe. He's debriefed by officials from the highest levels of government and military intelligence. Every word he speaks is classified, top secret. He's ordered never to discuss what happened publicly. His diary is confiscated, though a copy somehow survives. In March 1947, during a press conference in Chile, Byrd makes a cryptic statement that raises more questions than it answers. That he warns that America must prepare for the possibility of an invasion by aircraft capable of flying from pole to pole in an instant. The comment is largely ignored by mainstream media, but becomes legendary among researchers of unexplained phenomena. Admiral Richard E. Byrd dies in 1957, taking most of his secrets to the grave. But the questions his expedition raised refused to stay buried. What really happened during Operation Highjump? Did Byrd truly encounter an advanced civilization living beneath Antarctica? And if so, are they still there? Fast forward to August 2003. A Naval Special Operations team receives urgent deployment orders. Their destination? The southeastern coast of Antarctica. Their mission? Officially, to locate and extract a specific individual. Unofficially, to investigate something that's triggered alarm bells at the highest levels of military intelligence. The team leader, a first lieutenant commander in naval special warfare whom we'll call Spartan 1, would later risk everything to reveal what he found there. As their aircraft approaches the coordinates, something massive emerges from the ice sheet below. It's geometric, clearly artificial, and utterly impossible. An octagonal structure, each side measuring approximately 200 feet, protrudes roughly 18 feet above the frozen surface. The rest disappears into the ice. How deep, they can't tell. Spartan 1's team establishes a perimeter and approaches cautiously. The structure's walls are seamless, constructed from a material that resembles polished stone, but reflects light in ways natural rock doesn't. Most unsettling are the doors, massive barriers, each between 18 and 30 feet thick. Despite their enormous size and weight, these doors open with the slightest touch. No hinges, no mechanisms. Just perfectly balanced engineering that suggests technology far beyond current human capability. The temperature outside hovers at 40 degrees below zero. The moment Spartan 1 crosses the threshold, his environmental sensors register 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature differential is instantaneous and unexplainable. Inside, the structure defies logic, though the walls emit a soft luminescence, lime green in color, yet the team can't locate any light source. No fixtures, no bulbs, no electrical systems. The illumination seems to emanate from the walls themselves. Every surface is covered in symbols. Spartan 1, who has extensive training and has seen ancient writing systems from around the world, recognizes nothing. These aren't Egyptian hieroglyphs, not Sumerian cuneiform, not Sanskrit or any language system known to archaeology. The team proceeds deeper. Hallways extend into darkness, branching at perfect angles. The structure is vast, far larger than the portion visible above the ice suggests. Every room they enter is empty, but pristine. No dust, no decay, as if whoever built this place left yesterday, not thousands of years ago. Then their instruments start failing. Compasses spin uselessly. Their GPS signals vanish. Radio communications dissolve into static. They're completely cut off. Spartan 1 makes the decision to abort. His team retreats to the surface, where their equipment mysteriously begins functioning normally again. They complete their extraction mission and return to base, shaken but eager to report their discovery. The debriefing doesn't go as expected. Within hours, men in civilian suits arrive from Washington. They're not from the Pentagon's usual chain of command. These are intelligence officials, and they're furious. Spartan 1 and his team are told in no uncertain terms that what they saw never happened. The structure doesn't exist. They are never to speak of it, not to each other, not to their families, not to anyone. Any violation will result in criminal prosecution and imprisonment. So Spartan 1 stays silent for years, but the memory of that structure haunts him. Eventually, he contacts investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe, providing his testimony under the condition of anonymity. He risks his freedom to reveal what he knows because he believes the public deserves the truth. But he's not the only military whistleblower with an Antarctica story. Between 1983 and 1997, a naval flight engineer who requests to be identified only as Brian served with the Antarctic Development Squadron, conducting regular missions to and from McMurdo Station, America's largest research facility on the continent. For over a decade, his flights were routine: equipment drops, personnel transfers, emergency extractions. Antarctica's extreme conditions made every mission challenging, but nothing prepared Brian for what he would witness in his final years of service. It started with the silver objects. During a routine flight over the trans-Antarctic mountains, Brian's entire crew spotted them simultaneously. Dozens of metallic spheres, each perfectly round, moving in coordinated patterns around the mountain peaks. They'd cluster at one summit, hover momentarily, then dart to another peak with impossible acceleration. No sound, no visible propulsion. The squadron watched this display for nearly 20 minutes. Every member of the crew saw it. Their instruments registered the objects. These weren't optical illusions or weather phenomena. They were solid, metallic, and utterly inexplicable. Brian filed a report. It was classified immediately, and he was told not to discuss it further. Then came the medical emergency. A researcher at a remote station suffered a critical injury requiring immediate evacuation. Time was essential. Every minute counted. The squadron calculated the fastest route, which happened to cross a designated no-fly zone. Under normal circumstances, no-fly zones are absolute, but this was life or death. Command authorized the violation. They'd save the researcher first and deal with the consequences later. As Brian's aircraft crossed into the restricted airspace, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Below them, carved into the ice sheet, was an opening. Not a natural crevasse or glacial formation, an entrance. Circular, approximately 150 to 200 feet in diameter, angling downward into the earth. The ice around it was perfectly smooth, almost machined. But that wasn't the worst part. As they flew over this massive hole, every instrument on the aircraft went haywire. Electrical systems flickered, navigation equipment failed, magnetic anomalies spiked across their sensors. The plane itself began losing power. Brian's pilot immediately banked away from the opening. Within seconds of clearing the area, all systems returned to normal. They completed the medical extraction and returned to McMurdo, rattled but alive. The repercussions were swift and severe. Within hours, officials arrived from Washington, the same type of stern-faced men in suits who debriefed Spartan 1 years earlier. Brian and his crew were interrogated separately. The message was clear and absolute. That hole doesn't exist, they never flew over it, and they will never speak of it again to anyone. The officials revealed one additional detail that chilled Brian more than any Antarctic cold. This was not the first time pilots had reported that opening. Others had seen it. Others had been silenced. What lies beneath that entrance? Why does it create such powerful electromagnetic disturbances? And who is protecting its secret so aggressively? In recent years, satellite imagery and Google Earth have revealed something extraordinary in the Antarctic interior: pyramidal structures. Near the Shackleton mountain range, 3 pyramid-shaped formations stand in remarkable alignment. Each face has distinct edges and corners. The geometric precision is striking. These don't resemble natural mountain peaks, which typically have irregular, weathered profiles. The largest measures approximately 1,200 feet from base to apex, similar in scale to the Great Pyramid of Giza. Skeptics argue these are simply nunataks, mountain peaks protruding through the ice sheet, shaped by wind and erosion into pyramid-like forms. But several factors suggest otherwise. First, the symmetry. Natural erosion creates irregular shapes. These structures show four-sided symmetry with nearly identical face angles, approximately 52 degrees, remarkably similar to Egypt's pyramids. Second, the alignment. The three main structures are positioned in a pattern that mirrors Orion's belt, the same stellar correlation found in Egypt's Giza complex, as theorized by researchers like Robert Bauval. Third, the orientation. Each pyramid's faces align closely with cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, suggesting intentional positioning rather than random geological formation. If these are artificial structures, the implications are staggering. They would predate every known pyramid on Earth, and their presence in Antarctica would confirm that the continent once supported an advanced civilization. But pyramids aren't just monuments. They may have had functional purposes. Researchers studying pyramids worldwide have noted their potential as energy devices. The geometric shape, combined with specific internal structures, could generate and focus electromagnetic fields. Quartz and limestone, common pyramid building materials, both have piezoelectric properties. Some theorists propose that pyramids worldwide were part of an ancient power grid, a wireless energy transmission network. If positioned strategically across the globe, they could create standing waves that allowed for wireless power distribution and possibly even navigation for advanced craft. If Antarctica had pyramids, it would complete this global network. Perhaps the electromagnetic anomalies reported by Brian and others aren't malfunctions. They're the residual signatures of ancient technology still active beneath the ice. The Edfu texts describe the first temples as energy centers where the gods would ascend to the sky. What if these weren't merely ceremonial sites but functional launch pads or recharging stations for advanced craft? And what if, after 12,000 years buried in ice, these systems are beginning to reactivate? To understand what might lie beneath Antarctica, we need to look at what ancient civilizations told us about Earth's distant past. Nearly every culture on Earth preserves traditions of a great flood, a cataclysm that destroyed an advanced civilization and reset human development. The biblical account of Noah is perhaps the most famous, but similar stories exist worldwide. The Mesopotamians recorded it in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Egyptians preserved it in the Edfu creation texts. Hindu scriptures describe it in the story of Manu. Greek tradition gave us Atlantis through Plato's dialogues. Plato claimed he learned of Atlantis from Egyptian priests, who told him it existed 9,000 years before his time, roughly 11,500 years ago. He described a sophisticated civilization with advanced technology, destroyed in a single catastrophic day and night. For centuries, scholars dismissed Atlantis as pure mythology. But what if the story preserves real memories of a real place? Consider the timeline. Approximately 12,800 years ago, Earth experienced a sudden, dramatic climate shift. Geological evidence suggests a possible comet impact or airburst that triggered rapid environmental changes. Ice cores show temperature fluctuations of up to 20 degrees within decades. This period, known as the Younger Dryas, saw massive flooding worldwide as ice sheets melted. Coastlines shifted. Entire regions were submerged. Any coastal civilizations would have been devastated. What if Antarctica wasn't always frozen? What if it once supported life, perhaps even advanced civilization? The Piri Reis map, created in 1513, provides tantalizing evidence. This chart, drawn by Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis, shows the coastline of Antarctica with remarkable accuracy, but without ice. The continental shelf and mountain ranges are clearly depicted. How could a 16th century mapmaker accurately draw Antarctica's ice-free coastline? The continent wasn't even discovered until 1820, and its sub-ice topography wasn't mapped until the 20th century using ground-penetrating radar. Piri Reis himself noted that his map was compiled from older sources, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great or earlier. This suggests ancient civilizations had knowledge of Antarctica's geography from a time when it was visible. The Egyptian Edfu texts, inscribed on temple walls dating to 237 BCE, but preserving much older traditions, describe a place called the Island of the Egg, a primordial land where gods first descended from the sky and established civilization. The texts describe several groups of beings: the sages, the builders, and the mysterious Shebtu, who emerged from the water. These beings created the first temples and taught humanity fundamental knowledge. They arrived in flying vehicles and eventually departed back to the sky. Then catastrophe struck. The texts describe an enemy serpent, called the Great Leaping One, that appeared in the sky, bringing darkness and floods that destroyed this sacred island. When the waters receded, the ancient ones were gone. Could this be describing a comet impact that triggered the Younger Dryas and flash-froze Antarctica? Could the Island of the Egg, Atlantis, and Antarctica all be preserving memories of the same lost civilization? If an advanced culture existed in Antarctica before the ice, anything they built would now lie beneath up to 3 miles of frozen water. Their cities, temples, and technology would be perfectly preserved, frozen in time for 12,000 years. And if they had the technology ancient texts suggest, flying craft, advanced engineering, power generation, might some of it still be functional? In recent years, satellite imagery and Google Earth have revealed something extraordinary in the Antarctic interior: pyramidal structures. Near the Shackleton mountain range, 3 pyramid-shaped formations stand in remarkable alignment. Each face has distinct edges and corners. The geometric precision is striking. These don't resemble natural mountain peaks, which typically have irregular, weathered profiles. The largest measures approximately 1,200 feet from base to apex, similar in scale to the Great Pyramid of Giza. Skeptics argue these are simply nunataks, mountain peaks protruding through the ice sheet, shaped by wind and erosion into pyramid-like forms. But several factors suggest otherwise. First, the symmetry. Natural erosion creates irregular shapes. These structures show 4-sided symmetry with nearly identical face angles, approximately 52 degrees, remarkably similar to Egypt's pyramids. Second, the alignment. The 3 main structures are positioned in a pattern that mirrors Orion's belt, the same stellar correlation found in Egypt's Giza complex, as theorized by researchers like Robert Bauval. Third, the orientation. Each pyramid's faces align closely with cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west, suggesting intentional positioning rather than random geological formation. If these are artificial structures, the implications are staggering. They would predate every known pyramid on Earth, and their presence in Antarctica would confirm that the continent once supported an advanced civilization. But pyramids aren't just monuments. They may have had functional purposes. Researchers studying pyramids worldwide have noted their potential as energy devices. The geometric shape, combined with specific internal structures, could generate and focus electromagnetic fields. Quartz and limestone, common pyramid building materials, both have piezoelectric properties. Some theorists propose that pyramids worldwide were part of an ancient power grid, a wireless energy transmission network. If positioned strategically across the globe, they could create standing waves that allowed for wireless power distribution and possibly even navigation for advanced craft. If Antarctica had pyramids, it would complete this global network. Perhaps the electromagnetic anomalies reported by Brian and others aren't malfunctions. They're the residual signatures of ancient technology still active beneath the ice. The Edfu texts describe the first temples as energy centers where the gods would ascend to the sky. What if these weren't merely ceremonial sites but functional launch pads or recharging stations for advanced craft? And what if, after 12,000 years buried in ice, these systems are beginning to reactivate? Antarctica holds secrets that could fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of our past, our planet, and our place in the cosmos. The evidence is fragmentary but compelling. Military whistleblowers reporting structures and technologies that shouldn't exist. Satellite images revealing geometric formations and anomalous objects. Ancient texts describing advanced civilizations and catastrophic destruction. Historical accounts from credible witnesses like Admiral Byrd describing encounters with non-human intelligence. Individually, each piece could be dismissed. Collectively, they paint a disturbing picture. Something is in Antarctica, something old, something that various governments have taken extreme measures to keep secret. Consider the peculiar international cooperation regarding Antarctica. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, declared the continent neutral territory devoted exclusively to scientific research. It prohibits military activity, weapons testing, and territorial claims. On the surface, this seems admirable. Nations cooperating to protect Earth's last pristine wilderness. But the treaty also strictly controls who can visit Antarctica and where they can go. Large regions remain off-limits even to researchers. Why? Is it merely environmental protection? Or is something being protected from discovery? The ice itself is changing. Western Antarctica is losing billions of tons of ice annually. As glaciers retreat and ice sheets thin, what has been buried for millennia is being exposed. Scientists monitoring this process have made unusual discoveries, magnetic anomalies beneath the ice that suggest large metallic structures, the thermal hotspots indicating underground heat sources with no apparent geological explanation, seismic readings showing massive hollow spaces where solid rock should exist. Official explanations cite volcanic activity or unusual mineral deposits. But the patterns don't match natural formations. They match artificial structures, corridors, chambers, facilities. As climate change accelerates, Antarctica's secrets are running out of time. Within decades, perhaps sooner, structures buried beneath the ice will begin emerging. When that happens, suppression will become impossible. The question is whether disclosure will be controlled or catastrophic. Some researchers believe governments are preparing for gradual revelation. The recent acknowledgement of UFO phenomena by military officials, the establishment of official UAP investigation programs, or the mainstreaming of conversations about extraterrestrial life, all of this may be laying groundwork for bigger revelations to come. Others argue that when the truth finally emerges, it will be too shocking for controlled management. The discovery of advanced ruins in Antarctica, proof of pre-ice age civilizations, or confirmation of non-human intelligence operating on Earth would shatter fundamental assumptions about human history. Religious institutions would face challenges to creation narratives. Scientific establishments would need to rewrite textbooks. Governments would have to explain decades of secrecy. The psychological impact on humanity would be profound. Admiral Byrd's warning from 1947 takes on new significance. He wasn't just describing flying craft. He was warning that humanity was being watched, evaluated, and judged by intelligences far older and more advanced than ourselves. The Master's message to Byrd was clear. humanity's development of nuclear weapons crossed a threshold that could no longer be ignored. Since then, these observers have allegedly disabled nuclear missiles, monitored weapons facilities, and demonstrated technological capabilities that dwarf our own. If civilizations exist beneath Antarctica, whether extraterrestrial, terrestrial but ancient, or some combination, they've had thousands of years to develop undisturbed. Their technology would be to ours as ours is to Stone Age humans. And if the Edfu texts and other ancient accounts are accurate, they've intervened in human affairs before. They've guided, taught, and when necessary taken action to prevent humanity from destroying itself. Are we approaching another intervention point? Has our technology, warfare, and environmental destruction convinced these hidden observers that humanity cannot be trusted to manage Earth responsibly? The truth is, we don't know. We can only examine the evidence, ask the questions, and prepare ourselves for answers that may fundamentally change everything we thought we knew. Antarctica is melting. Satellites are watching. Whistleblowers are speaking. The secrets buried beneath that ice have survived for 12,000 years in frozen preservation. But nothing stays buried forever. When those secrets finally emerge, and they will, humanity will face a choice. Accept a radically different understanding of our past and our planet, or reject evidence that challenges comfortable assumptions. The ancient Egyptians inscribed a warning on the walls of Edfu. The gods established the first temples here, and from here all civilization began. Perhaps they were trying to tell us something. Perhaps Antarctica isn't just where civilization might have begun. It's where the next chapter of human understanding will commence. The frozen continent holds answers. The question is whether we're ready for them. What lies beneath that ice isn't just ancient ruins or crashed craft or abandoned technology. It's truth. Raw, unfiltered, and potentially world-shattering truth about who we are, where we came from, and whether we've ever truly been alone on this planet. The ice is melting. The truth is coming. And we're running out of time to prepare for what happens next.